Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking through the NBA slate on DraftKings for today on Tuesday, November the 28th. We do have 8 games for tonight, so a decent sized Tuesday slate. We're going to go game by game, guys. We're going to give you a quick breakdown of this 8-game slate, what stands out to me, taking a first look on Monday night. But as always, before we do get started with the breakdown, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, and if they do help you out, please hit that like button down below. I do always appreciate the likes. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel and if you don't have an account over on PrizePicks, we do have a partnership with PrizePicks. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks, linked down below in the description. Or just when you sign up, make sure to use promo code NOAH and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. For those of you that don't know what PrizePicks is, they are a player prop site. It's a DFS site focused on player projections, and it's really simple, really easy to use. You're just picking more or less on a player's projection. You can make you have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 6 picks over on PrizePicks, and you can win up to 25x your money. So if you guys want to check them out, again, sign up, use that promo code NOAH, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. And as always, I will be sharing some props that I like for PrizePicks today. I'll be making a separate video that'll go up later tonight. Check that out if you are interested in some props I like for PrizePicks. But let's go ahead and talk through Tuesday's slate. We'll start off with the first game of the night, the Bulls and the Celtics. So starting off on the Chicago side here, Zach LaVine is listed as questionable for today, so this will be something to monitor. If LaVine were to sit this game, we obviously know that really benefits DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic the most. Kobe White would also get a little bit of a boost without LaVine. This is a very tough matchup on the road against the Celtics, a really good defensive team, one of the best defensive teams in the league. So I wouldn't be I don't think I would want to load up on the Bulls here if LaVine's out, but I would definitely be fine playing DeRozan or Vooch, probably one of the two. I don't think I would play both. I think Kobe White at 5,800 would be a solid option as well. Don't know if I get to any other Bulls, though, on this slate. I think that would probably be it for me. And then if Zach LaVine plays, I really don't see much I like here. Again, it's not the best spot here. Maybe you could play one of LaVine, DeRozan, or Vooch, but on this slate, I don't think this is a team I'm going to be super interested in. Only way I'm going to be getting exposure here is if LaVine winds up sitting. And on the other side of this game with the Celtics, so right now the Celtics are without Kristaps Porzingis, and Jrue Holiday is also questionable for this game. So this will be something to monitor. If Jrue is out, that's definitely going to put a big role for Jason Tatum. It's going to be a big role for Tatum, big role for Jaylen Brown. Those two guys would really dominate the usage without Porzingis and potentially without Jrue. So at 10-3, I think Tatum would firmly be in play on the slate as a pay-up option. No issue with him. Jaylen Brown at 8,200, I think would be a solid play as well. He was disappointing last game without Porzingis and without Jrue, but I think I'd be fine going to Jaylen Brown here. And then Derek White, I think, would also get a little bit of a boost without Jrue Holiday. Now, Derek White is almost 7K, so I don't think at this price tag I would be I don't think I'd be running to roster Derek White, but I still think he would be a playable option. And then if Jrue winds up playing, I'm not super interested in a ton of Celtics here. I mean, I know Porzingis is out right now, but these guys they're all priced kind of where they should be if we assume Jrue is in. But if Jrue is out, then that definitely changes things. That would make all those other guys look a little bit more appealing. And then Al Horford should benefit while Porzingis is out. He did start last game, played 32 minutes. Al Horford at this point in his career is not he's not a great fantasy producer, but last game he did play 32 minutes. He did have 35 DraftKings points. Horford, he can do a little bit of everything when he's on the floor. He is 6K on DraftKings, so it's not like we're getting him at much of a discount. But Horford is still playable, with Porzingis out. And then Sam Hauser would probably draw the start if Jrue Holiday got ruled out. Hauser at 4,800 would be an okay value play. Not a guy that I think, that I'd be running to roster, but I think he would be playable. He did get up to 32 minutes last game without Jrue. And then you probably see a little bit more minutes for Peyton Pritchard. He played 20 minutes last game. Don't think I'd go to him at almost 5K, but at least did want to mention him. But that's it for the Celtics. Let's move on to the next game, Toronto and Brooklyn. So for the Raptors here, they're pretty much fully healthy right now. And if we're looking at the Raptors guys, their starters I think are. If we're looking at the starters here, I think the guy that I probably like the most is either Siakam or Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes is he started to regress a little bit after he got off to a really hot start early on the season. He was crushing early in the season. Now he's started to regress a little bit. He's had some tougher matchups, though, against Orlando, against Cleveland. Those are some good defensive teams. I think this matchup against Brooklyn is it's fine for Scotty Barnes. Not a standout play today, but he's playable. Pascal Siakam, again, playable. Schroeder, Pirtle, OG, where those guys are priced at, none of them really stand out to me. and there's really no value that I like on Toronto here. I mean, the Raptors, they're a team, you can kind of get to the starters. Like, you could play one of these guys, like whether it be Barnes or Siakam, but I don't think there's any core plays or guys that I would be playing like in single entry lineup or something like that. I think for me to get exposure to this Raptors team, I probably would have to be playing like, probably max entering. I don't think this is a team I would be really playing much of, in just one lineup. And then on the other side with Brooklyn, so Brooklyn, we'll have to monitor their injury report because they could be really shorthanded here. Cam Thomas, he is doubtful, so he's not expected to play. Nick Claxton is questionable, and I believe Cam Johnson is questionable as well. Or he's probable, so he's expected to play. And then Dennis Smith Jr. I think he's questionable. I don't think that really matters too much. But the big one definitely is Claxton. So if Claxton is out, I assume that we probably see more minutes for Day'Ron Sharpe. Probably more minutes for like Royce O'Neal as well. I think last game, I can't remember who started last game. I don't think it was Day'Ron Sharpe, or it might have been Sharpe. Because I think that was on Sunday, and I wasn't paying too much attention to NBA on Sunday. But either way, I think Sharpe would get some, he'd get more minutes here if there is no Claxton. And he is only 4,400. Day'Ron Sharpe is a really good point per minute player. When he gets minutes, he can really produce from a fantasy perspective. So I would like Day'Ron Sharpe a good amount if Claxton is out here. And I think, Dinwiddie and Bridges, where they're priced at on this slate, neither one of them stand out. But they should pick up, more usage without Cam Thomas right now, and potentially, without Claxton too. Lonnie Walker at 6,300, I'm fine passing on here. Cam Johnson at 6,100, I think is okay, but again, not a standout play to me. Royce O'Neal probably benefits a little bit if there is no Claxton. He did play 36 minutes last game. At 5,500, he feels priced about right, but I wouldn't mind going to Royce O'Neal if Claxton sits again. And I think Dorian Finney-Smith also gets a little bit of a boost if there is no Claxton. They actually might have started him at center last game if I remember correctly, but I can't remember what their starting lineup was. But yeah, 5K. I think Dorian Finney-Smith would be okay if Claxton is out. If Claxton plays, though, not a ton of interest in many Brooklyn guys today. Maybe Claxton himself at 6,300 could be viable. We have seen his minutes be decent. He did play 37 minutes in that game against Atlanta. I think that game did go to overtime, if I remember correctly. But clearly, with him playing 37 minutes in that game, he's pretty much fully healthy right now, and he can handle playing big minutes if he's asked to. And if we're going to get like 30 minutes from Claxton, I mean, this is a good point per minute player. This is a guy that can really be productive when he's on the floor. So he'd be my favorite play from the Nets today if he's in. If he's out, I think my favorite play from the Nets would probably be Day'Ron Sharpe. But let's move on to the next game, Atlanta and Cleveland. So for Atlanta here, not the greatest spot for these Hawks guys going up against Cleveland. Pretty good defensive team. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, I think are always playable options. On this slate, I don't think either one of them stand out, though, at their price tags. If I had to pick one of the two, I think Trae would be my favorite at 9,700. Trae, we've started to see more of a ceiling from him lately. He's had 4 straight games now with at least 50 DraftKings points. He has had some pretty good matchups, though, against Washington, against Indiana. But even in a tough matchup against Boston, he put up 50. Against Brooklyn, he put up 67. Again, I think that game did go to overtime. But Trae's got big-time upside. He's fine to go to on this slate, but not a standout option. The rest of the the rest of the Hawks, I don't love here. Saddiq Bey has been picking up more minutes without Jalen Johnson, and while Jalen Johnson is out, he should be the starter. Last game, he did play 29 minutes as a starter, had 19 DraftKings points. Obviously, that was pretty tough matchup against the Celtics. This isn't the greatest matchup either. The price tag on Saddiq Bey came up to 5,600. I think I'm fine, kind of passing on him now. And again, DeAndre Hunter, Bogdan, maybe they get a little bit of a boost without Jalen Johnson, but where they're priced at, I'm not super interested in either one. I think both guys are kind of priced correctly. So yeah, there's not a ton that I like on Atlanta today. And on the Cleveland side, I definitely like some Cleveland guys here because this is a really good spot. Atlanta, defensively, not a good defensive team, I should say. They're a pretty bad defensive team. And then Atlanta does play fast as well. So it's a really good matchup here for Donovan Mitchell. I think at 9,200, Donovan Mitchell does look like a pretty intriguing pay-up option. Since he's come back from his injury, he's not looked great in the matchup against the Lakers and against the Raptors, just 39 and 24 DraftKings points. But this feels like a get-right spot for Donovan Mitchell facing a pretty bad Hawks team, a bad Hawks defense. So definitely like Donovan Mitchell here. Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, I think, are both fine plays. I don't like either one as much now that Mitchell's back, but I think they're still playable. Max Strus, I'm fine just avoiding his price tag. Jared Allen, I don't mind at 6,400. We have seen the minutes start to tick up for Jared Allen. He did get up to 37 minutes in their recent game against the Lakers. I don't think we're going to get 37 minutes today from Jared Allen, but if you told me he played 33, 34 minutes, I'd like him quite a bit because I think this is a pretty good matchup against Atlanta. Atlanta is a team that I think their rim defense has not been great, so I do like Jarrett Allen at 6,400. The rest of the Cavs, though, I'm fine passing on. I think for me, two favorite plays here are definitely Donovan Mitchell and Jarrett Allen. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, though, Milwaukee and Miami. So for Milwaukee today, got to keep an eye on the status of Chris Middleton. Middleton listed as questionable for this game. If Middleton does wind up sitting, you'll see more usage for both Giannis and Damian Lillard. This is not the greatest matchup against Miami. Miami historically done a pretty good job kind of stopping Giannis. I don't think it's the best matchup for Giannis, but he would definitely have a bigger role if there is no Chris Middleton. We did see last game without Middleton, obviously a much better matchup for Giannis, but in that game against Portland, he did put up he did play 39 minutes and had 69 DraftKings points. We know Giannis can play big minutes. This is a game against Miami, a big-time game. I think this game might be on national TV. Don't know for sure, but we probably get 36, 37 minutes from Giannis here. This game's competitive. He's a fine tournament play. I think Damian Lillard, fine tournament play as well. The rest of the Bucks, though, I'm okay passing on here. I think last game with Middleton out, they did wind up starting Andre Jackson, but he didn't really do much as a starter. Played 12 minutes, had 1 DraftKings point, 1.25 DraftKings points. Even if Andre Jackson starts again, I would just probably fade him. Not a ton of interest there. Maybe like Pat Connaughton's the guy that benefits most without Middleton, but he only played 20 minutes last game. He did have, I thought he was in foul trouble. I saw the 5 there, and I thought that was fouls, but I was reading the wrong line. He only played 20 minutes last game, which was kind of weird with Middleton out. Don't know if I'd go to Connaughton. Don't think I'd go to any other Bucks on the slate. I think it's really just Giannis and Lillard. Giannis probably my favorite play here, but I don't think there's any standout plays coming from Milwaukee. And then on the other side with Miami, so Miami has kind of been injury depleted lately. Bam Adebayo is listed as probable, so he's expected to play this game. Jimmy Butler listed as questionable, so we'll have to keep an eye on his status. And then Duncan Robinson is listed as probable, so he's expected back for this one. But the Jimmy questionable tag is definitely a big one. Obviously, if Jimmy is out, that's going to really benefit Bam. It's going to really benefit Kyle Lowry. Probably would benefit Jaime Jaquez Jr. as well. Bam at 9,200. Don't love this matchup against Milwaukee. Really tough spot for Bam, against a good defense and against a good rim defender in Brook Lopez. But if there is no Jimmy Butler, you're just going to have to see Bam take on a really big role. He's going to tote some heavy usage. I would still be interested in Bam today if Butler's out. I definitely would be interested in Jaime Jaquez Jr. I'd assume that he would start if there is no Jimmy Butler, and he would probably play 30-plus minutes. I mean, he's been getting a lot of run off the bench either way. He's shown to be a good point-per-minute player as well. So I would definitely be interested in him. And then I think Kyle Lowry would also benefit if there is no Butler. We did see Lowry have a good game against Cleveland. That was a game that they didn't have Bam. And I think whenever Bam or Butler are out, I think Lowry can really take on a bigger role. So I would like Lowry here at 5,100 if there is no Butler today. And the rest of these guys like Josh Richardson, Caleb Martin, I think I would pass on these guys. Haywood Highsmith is questionable, so keep an eye on this. He has been starting lately. So if he were to get ruled out, we might see, again, like Jaime Jaquez start. Maybe they would start like Caleb Martin. That's possible. So like keep an eye on the starting lineup for Miami. There could definitely be some value here depending on what their starting lineup looks like. But if we assume everyone is playing for Miami, then I don't like too much here. I think my favorite play from Miami would probably be Jimmy if he does play. I think 8,300 for Jimmy is probably a little bit too cheap. And this matchup against Milwaukee, this is a big time game. Like you feel like these are the type of games that Jimmy does kind of get up for. So I'd be a little bit interested in him if he plays. But Miami in general would not be a team I'd want too much exposure to if we assume everyone that's questionable winds up playing. But again, we don't have that news right now, so we just kind of have to wait and see. Luckily, though, lock's at 7:30. There's a lot of games that start at 7:30, so we'll have this news before lock. We'll have probably most of the news that we need before lock with a lot of the games starting either at 7:30 or 8. I mean, there's a 7:30, or looking at this slate, there's 8 games. 5 of them start at 7:30. One of them starts at 8. One of them starts at 8:30, and there's one late night game at 10. So that's kind of a good schedule. We'll have most of the news, hopefully, that we need before lock. But let's move on to the next game, Charlotte and the Knicks. So looking at Charlotte today, big news here is that LaMelo Ball is doubtful. So LaMelo is not expected to play. He got injured in their last game and then did not return. So without LaMelo, there's going to be a lot of usage for really everyone because LaMelo does, he is the highest usage player on this team. So you should see more usage for Miles Bridges, for Terry Rozier, probably for Gordon Hayward as well. Brandon Miller should be the guy that starts in place of LaMelo. He started the second half last game in place of LaMelo, so I assume Brandon Miller will start. Let's start off with Miles Bridges. So at 8K, I think Miles Bridges is priced appropriately today, but I still think he is playable here. I mean, since he has come back from his suspension, he has had a really big role. He is playing a ton of minutes. He's played at least 37 minutes in 3 straight games. I mean, they're playing him like almost 37, 38 minutes a night in regulation right now. So I definitely think Miles Bridges, I think Miles Bridges with LaMelo out here is playable. Not a guy that I'm running to roster, but I think at 8K he is still fine. I think Terry Rozier is probably my favorite play on the Hornets today. He's the guy that should really pick up the bigger role without LaMelo. Going to be the primary point guard, going to be the primary ball handler. And we've seen Rozier have some good games in the past when LaMelo has been out. At 7,400, his price tag didn't jump up too much without LaMelo, so I definitely like Rozier the most of all the Hornets. Mark Williams, I don't like this spot at all for Mark Williams, and the price tag at almost 7K makes him a guy that I'm fine passing on. I think Gordon Hayward benefits a little bit without LaMelo. He feels priced about right at 6,500, but I think he's playable. And then Brandon Miller is the other guy I want to mention because he should start here in place of LaMelo. We did see him play 33 minutes last game. He's been playing pretty big minutes in the games that he has started this season. And again, he should start with LaMelo out. I'd assume he plays over 30 minutes. At 5,600, I have some interest in Brandon Miller today. So if we're talking about the Hornets, my favorite play here is probably Rozier, but I do like Miles Bridges. I think Gordon Hayward's fine, and I think Brandon Miller is in play as well. But that's probably it for the Hornets. Let's move on to the other side of this game with the Knicks, and it's a really good spot for these Knicks guys going up against Charlotte. Charlotte is a team that will play fast. Their pace probably won't be as high with LaMelo out, but still, their defense is not going to be great. So it's definitely a good matchup for these Knicks guys. I think Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson are both in a pretty good spot here. I'm interested in both guys. I don't think I would play them together, but if you want to play one of the two, I have no issue with that. I definitely think this is a matchup Randle can have success in. I think this is a matchup Jalen Brunson can have success in as well. Both guys do feel priced about where they should be, but again, this is a good matchup, so I think both are playable. And then the other guy that I do like a lot from the Knicks is Mitchell Robinson. Charlotte, we know, has typically been a team you can beat with opposing big men. They've always kind of been vulnerable around the glass, giving up fantasy points to centers. Mitch has had some okay games against Charlotte this year. He hasn't been great in this matchup, but this is typically a matchup I do like to target. So at 5,200, I definitely like Mitch as kind of a cheaper center option today. He's probably my favorite play overall on the Knicks, but I do like Randle and Brunson quite a bit as well. Those are the three guys I like most from this team. I don't think there's much else, though, I'd want to get exposure to on the Knicks side. So let's move on to the next game, OKC and Minnesota. So for OKC today, this team's fully healthy right now. Everyone feels priced about where they should be, and this is a really tough matchup against the Minnesota. Minnesota's been like one of the best defensive teams in the league this season, so don't know if I want to get much exposure to OKC here. SGA is someone you can always play in tournaments because he has a big-time upside, but on this slate, I think there's other guys I'd rather pay up for. Even though Giannis is in a tougher matchup, I think I'd rather play Giannis over SGA today. Not super interested in SGA, not super interested in Chet. I mean, OKC, they're probably one of the least appealing teams to target today. I don't see too much I really like here. Maybe Jalen Williams we could go to at 5,900. That feels a little bit too cheap for him. Not a guy that has a super high ceiling when he's playing with SGA and Giddey and all these other guys. But at 5,900, he has enough of a ceiling to be worth rostering at this price tag. He, I guess, would be my favorite play from the Thunder, but I don't like much here. Probably going to be avoiding this Thunder team for the most part. And then on the other side of this game with Minnesota, Minnesota's not a team I have a ton of interest in either. I think Anthony Edwards at 8,900 is another guy that's just kind of like always playable. I haven't found myself playing Anthony Edwards much this season. But this is definitely a matchup where I think he is fine. OKC will play fast. OKC's pretty good defensively, but they'll play fast. So I think this game environment should be pretty solid. I don't want to get a ton of exposure to Minnesota today, but I think Ant's fine. Cat feels priced about where he should be. Same with Rudy Gobert. Same with Mike Conley. NAW is going to continue to start while Jaden McDaniels is out. But again, at 4,600, he's just another guy that feels priced where he should be. Not much stands out on Minnesota here. If I had to pick anyone to play, probably would be Ant. Then Gobert. That's probably it, though. I don't like many other Timberwolves today. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game. 2 more games to go over, guys. Houston and Dallas. So for Houston here, Fred VanVleet, I believe, is probable. So he's expected to play today. And then I think Dylan Brooks is probable as well. Yeah, he's expected to play. So I think for the most part, we can expect Houston to have all their main guys healthy here. So if we're looking at Houston on this slate, there isn't a ton that I like on the Rockets. But I definitely think Alperen Sengun's in a really good spot. Dallas has been vulnerable against big men this season. They don't really have great rim defense. Derek Lively, he's not the best defender. I think he's questionable for today, so he might not even play. I think this is a pretty good spot for Sengun, and we've seen Sengun, even playing with Fred VanVleet this season. Sengun's had a huge role, still handling the ball a lot, getting a lot of assists. He's also been rebounding a ton and scoring a ton. he is shown to be like a really good fantasy producer, and I don't think anything's going to change. I know the price tag is really starting to get up there at 8,500, but Şengün definitely has big upside in this matchup. He's my favorite play on the Rockets. Van Vliet feels priced about where he should be. Same with Jalen Green and Jabari Smith. If you want to go to Dillon Brooks for value, I don't hate it. They're going to need his defense in this matchup against Luka, and I think as long as Brooks avoids foul trouble, he's probably going to have to play a lot of minutes just because they're going to want him out there defensively guarding Luka and Kyrie. Dillon Brooks is not a great fantasy producer, but he is cheap. He's going to play big minutes if the game's competitive and if he's not in foul trouble. So I guess you could go there for value, but that's it for Houston. Let's move on to the other side of this game now with Dallas. And for Dallas today, I don't like a ton on the Mavericks. This matchup against Houston is one that we typically last season liked to target, but it's not the case anymore. Houston's actually been really good defensively this year. This is definitely not a matchup that I love. So Luka and Kyrie, I think both look pretty underwhelming on this slate. I mean, Luka's almost 12K. Don't love the spot for Luka against a good Houston team that plays really good defense, also plays really slow. It's just not the greatest matchup overall for Luka. Luka can put up a huge game any night, but don't know if this is a slate where I'm going to be going out of my way to play Luka. And I think the same could be said for Kyrie. He's almost 10K. I'm fine kind of avoiding Kyrie at this price tag. And the rest of the Mavericks, I don't have much interest in. Derek Lively is questionable today, so we'll have to monitor this. It looks like last game that Derek Lively was out, they did start Richaun Holmes. I must have missed that. I guess I wasn't paying attention to NBA that day. So Richaun Holmes did start last game in place of Derek Lively. He played 21 minutes, had 11 DraftKings points. Richaun Holmes, in the past, has been decent from a point per minute perspective. We haven't seen Richaun Holmes play much lately, his last few seasons, but a few years ago, he actually was a pretty good per minute producer. I think at 4K, he'd actually be in play for value today if Derek Lively is out again. So keep an eye on that. I think we could get some value there with Holmes if there is no Lively. But that's it for that game. Let's talk about the last game of the night, the Warriors and the Kings. So this is a game that should be a good one from a fantasy perspective. Two teams that will play fast. On the Golden State side, Steph Curry at 9,500. He's kind of been underwhelming this season from a fantasy perspective, but we know Steph always has a big ceiling. He can put up a huge game any night. We haven't seen many huge ceiling games from Curry. He only has one game over 60 DraftKings points this year. At 9,500, you kind of want him to put up 55, 60 to be worth the salary. I definitely think, though, this is a matchup where you could get a big ceiling game from Curry. I'm fine with Curry in tournaments. Chris Paul did go back to the bench last game, so tough to have a ton of interest in Paul now that he's coming off the bench. Draymond is back from suspension, so we should see him back in the starting lineup. We'll have to see how much he plays. I assume he was conditioning while he was out, so I'd assume he's going to play his normal amount of minutes. Don't know if I'd want to go to Draymond on this slate, but at least did want to mention that he will be back for this game. Clay and Looney, I don't like a ton. I think Clay probably does benefit with Draymond back, but on this slate, not super interested in Clay, not super interested in really any other Golden State guys. If I was going to play anyone on Golden State, I think Steph would be my favorite play here. And on the other side, we're looking at the Kings. So Keegan Murray is listed as, I'm pretty sure he's doubtful for today. Yeah, doubtful to play. So with Keegan Murray out, we'll probably see Chris Duarte start. I think Duarte has started the last few games in place of Keegan Murray. That hasn't really resulted in much fantasy value. Duarte has not really been playing a ton of minutes, even as a starter. Don't know if I'd want to go to him on this slate, but I think Trey Lyles probably benefits without Keegan Murray. We did see Lyles play 19 minutes last game, 28 the game before that. He did get some garbage time run in that game against the Pelicans. Maybe he picks up some additional minutes here. I think for the most part, they've kind of just been using him as a backup center to Sabonis. But yeah, I think Trey Lyles maybe would be in play for value. Then maybe you get a few more minutes for Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, Harrison Barnes. Barnes at 5,100, I don't mind. I think he is going to play a lot. He has played a lot of minutes the last few games without Keegan Murray. You could go there at 5,100. And then, obviously Sabonis and Fox are kind of always playable options, but where they're priced at 10-1 for Sabonis, 9,800 for Fox, neither one looks super appealing today. If I had to pick one of these two guys to play, I think I'd rather go to Fox. I think it's probably a better matchup for Fox. I think both guys offer plenty of upside, though. We did see Fox do really well against Golden State in the playoffs last year. He did really well against them earlier this season. So, yeah, I think Fox is in play. I think Sabonis is fine as well. That's really it from the Kings, though. And I think that's it for this 8-game slate for Tuesday night. So, appreciate you guys watching the video. As always, supporting the content, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that like button down below if you did enjoy. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And be sure to go check out PrizePicks, guys. If you don't have an account over on PrizePicks, you can sign up for PrizePicks linked down below in the description. or just when you sign up, make sure to use promo code Noah. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for Prize Picks with my promo code. But that's all that I got for tonight. Good luck on the slate, guys. Appreciate you watching the video as always, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.